Hey, what's up, everybody? I just finished reading Good Omens, which is a book by Terry Pratchett. I think he's one of the Monty Python guys, I think. Did he write Discworld? I don't know. I should probably look this up. Anyway, he's like a British guy, and Neil Gaiman, who's another British guy. And they both do like quirky, funny stuff. And this book is quirky humor. So normally, if you follow my stuff at all, you know, I just kind of like talk about my feelings about stuff. I do like a quick kind of like review, and then I go through like the plot. Essentially, I talk about the story and the characters and like my thoughts as I go along. This, I'm not really going to do that as much. This is more just going to be like a straight, honest, just more of a straight review. I'm going to talk about the gist of the plot, but the plot is like bare thin, because that's not the point of the story as far as I can tell. The point of the story is just like quirkiness and odd British humor, or dry, I guess they call it. So, a little about me. My father, immigrant from Sicily, he for some reason loved like British comedies, dramas, I don't know what to call. He watched a lot of them on like fucking PBS back in the day when I was growing up on TV on like the and then he even like collected some. Like his favorite, as far as I could tell, we never had like a firm conversation about this, was Rumpole of the Bailey, which is about this guy who's like a lawyer in England. And then my brother got into it at some point as well, and he's watched it all, and he said it was pretty good as well. I remember watching it as a kid, like a lot. Like it would just be on because my dad would watch it, and he'd watch some other shit too. Like there's some show, Black Adder, I think, or I think it's Black Adder. It's the one with Mr. Bean, which is more people probably know him from that. And he plays like an inquisitor or something. And then there was, what else did he fucking watch? I saw a little bit of Red Moon or whatever. I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, a lot of that shit. I didn't like any of it, and I still don't. I've read Discworld, not a big fan. I've read what's it called? Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's okay. And that's generally how I feel about this. I'm like, I did audiobook for this, and like, it's a good audiobook. So let me just start with that. So Good Omens, they have a full cast, essentially, audiobook. It's very well acted. It's very fun. You don't need to be like told who people are, which I love about like the full cast stuff, because they can like cut out a lot of just like, oh, as Azrael said, or Crowley said, or whoever said, right? Because you recognize the voices, and they're just like going. So you're like, okay, this is good. And the narrator does a good job as well. It's like some very British woman, or at least the way she sounds. And the story is like, it's like a comedic take on like on Armageddon, or like what leads up to Armageddon. So you have like a fun full cast. So the main two, that's the thing, there's not like the main two characters. The main characters involve an angel and a demon. Crowley is the demon, and I'm going to call him Az, like Hill versus Babyface, but it's like Azazel. I just don't want to keep saying that over and over again. So there's Az and Crowley. Az is like a very proper like angel, and then Crowley is a devil. And Crowley was the serpent that tempted Eve, and Azazel he was like the angel with the fiery sword that was put in front of the Garden of Eden, right? So they've been on Earth for like 6,000 years, right? And this whole thing's working on like that kind of logic, is that the Earth was created like 6,000 years ago, or at least Adam and Eve were cast out of the Garden of Eden 6,000 years ago. And so they were just like hanging out afterwards, just chit-chatting, and it's like, well, they're not going to go back to heaven and hell at this point. They're just going to kind of stay about and like do work for Satan and God. And so and we don't ever actually meet like Satan or God in this story. We meet Beelzebub, who's like the mouthpiece of the devil, for a minute, and then we meet Metatron, and Metatron is like, he's the voice of God, right? So this is going on very like Catholic logic, which makes sense, because that is kind of what is rooted in Anglicanism, which is what Episcopalianism is in America, which is an offshoot of Catholicism, right? So a lot of like the mythology and stuff, it's all fantasy, right? But it's cribbing a lot off like Anglican understanding of like Christianity and such. So you get a lot of that kind of mythology with like the angels and different kinds of devils and demons and stuff. So that's fun. So thousands of years go by. Crowley and Azazel have just been like hanging out on Earth doing stuff. They like meet up every couple of months and have tea. They're generally just kind of like hanging out in England, because why not? Fuck it. And then at some point, Crowley gets ordered to bring like the son of the devil, and put him in like a family, so that he can, start the end of the world and whatnot. Okay, so we're getting too much in the plot. So there's those two. They have a lot of comedic stuff. They're like a old married gay couple, essentially, and a lot of their like interactions and stuff, they like are very adorable. One thing that is a very like Neil Gaiman thing about this book is it's got intense feminine energy. Like the way it deals with like people and their relationships, and then like the men and women in this. It's like every woman is like far superior to like every man, including like the angels and whatnot, aside from Adam, and Adam, not Adam in Garden of Eden, but Adam is what ends up being the name of the son of the devil, the Antichrist, and he's got some very masculine energy, and he's very good. He's very cool. But he's like a 12-year-old boy. Meanwhile, everyone else, like all the other men, are like very cuckold, if you will. Not like their girls are getting fucked in front of them, but they just are very like wringing their hands about everything, like indecisive, like having struggles trying to get stuff done, or just kind of like doofuses. Where all the women are like very confident and strong, and again, it's no Gaiman, so it's not like woke. I would not call this woke at all. That's why I say it like carries a lot of feminine energy with it, which is another one of those things that kind of just like stands out to me as like it kind of bothers me about some of this stuff. And I feel like it's almost like very typical of like modern British writing, to be completely honest. It's like a very Terry Pratchett kind of like this British humor is like very like demasculating in a lot of ways, and I'm not a huge fan of it, to be completely honest. Like I don't mind a bit here and there, or if there's some characters, but this is just like it's like overwhelming amounts of it. And I'm using too strong a language. There is a lot of it, or a fair bit. Let's start with that. Let's do a fair bit. And so it kind of pulls me out here and there, because it's just like, okay, I know exactly what's happening here. That being said, everyone, it's got that whole British humor thing, which again, I'm not a super big fan of either, where everyone's kind of like a nitwit, or like a bumbling buffoon, or like got some sort of like bizarre dry like quirk, which is like, it's not, you're never gonna like laugh out loud, but it's kind of like, you have like a quiet chuckle to yourself about it. Like it's so British, and again, I like British stuff. Yeah, so like I'm always like, oh, all right, whatever. Like if something's gonna be funny, I want it to be fucking The Hangover, right? Or like the various bro comedies of like the 90s, like Wedding Crashers or something. Like that is what I want to see, or like anime shit. I'm not really a huge fan of this type of humor at all. Like so. Anyway. Some of their characters we have Adam, and Adam's got his little crew of like his little gang, and there's like girl and then two boys, and they have like his little adventures. And Adam, he's just like a kid who grew up in England, and he has like a lot of high hopes about life, and he like is interested in the occult, and he just ends up being like a good dude who like realizes what's going on and like tries to take care and cares most about like his friends and his family, mostly about his friends, and he just like justifies everything as like an 11-year-old kid. So he's cool, and his friends are pretty cool. They're all kind of fun and quirky. Then there's a Abathema, something like that. She's a witch, but she's like a British witch, as in she doesn't cast spells or do anything. She's like related to this lady called Nutter or something, and Agnes Nutter, I think, who Agnes Nutter wrote like this book that is like everything she predicted has come true, and it's like the greatest book of prophecy. It's greater than like Nostradamus or anything like that. Anyway, so she's the descendant of her, and she's got this book, and so she kind of knows everything that's going to happen. Then there's like Mutant Pulsifer. He's like just some dude who like stumbled into a career as like a witch hunter, and so he gets sent out to like hunt her, and then end up having sex and getting married. And then there's his boss. I can't remember what the guy's name is. He's like an old curmudgeonly dude who lives in the same house as like a prostitute, essentially. And then they end up getting together, of course, because this book's like adorable. And so then there's her. She does fake seances, and then also she does like massage therapy, right? So she's not actually a prostitute, but like according to this guy's like old timey sensibilities, and he's like one of the last like witch finders on the earth. Oh, Mutant, who they call what is he called? They call him Mute. He ends up he's like the descendant of like the witchfinder generals of like the good old days when they hunted witches for realsies back in the day, and his like ancestor actually burned Agnes Nutter at the stake. And now, he's hooking up with her great-great-great-granddaughter, so, like, the world is healed. Let's see. Who else? Okay, there's them. Yep. And then the last people we run into is we spend a bit of time with pestilence, famine, death, and war, right, which are the four horsemen of the apocalypse. War is this chick who just is kind of badass. Famine is this like he's kind of like, he sells like Botox and like fad diets and like fake food and stuff. And then Famine's just like this quiet guy. No, not Famine, I'm sorry. Pestilence is a quiet guy who just like wherever he goes, like terrible things happen. And we find out that Pestilence actually, and this is like from some very British humor, right? So Pestilence actually retired about 100 years ago or something. And so pollution took over. So instead of pestilence, it's pollution. So a lot of what he does is not actually like pestilence to the crops. It's more pollution, like oil spilling into the ocean, coal plants blowing up, causing smoke in the sky, stuff like that. And then there's Death, who's like their boss, and he's the angel of death, and he causes death, obviously. So we spend the most amount of time with Famine and War, because Famine's got like a whole industry going, and then War just is like, she's like a war correspondent, so everywhere she goes there's like wars just happen to show up right when she gets there, obviously. And then we have a fun scene where she like gets her sword and kills a bunch of people. But then the other kind of like lesser but also main character is this delivery guy, and he's the one who goes about and like delivers all the magic items that the Horsemen of the Apocalypse need, and then he collects them at the end, and then he like talks to his wife about he's had like the craziest day ever, and he is real tired about the whole situation. All right, then there's like various other like randos that we get like way too much information about. That's really what drives it. So the plot is very simple. So I told you how it kind of begins, and so then there's like a satanic church pretending to be like a nunnery, and this is where they're giving birth in this area called by Tadfield, which is where the Antichrist is supposed to be like born. And so Crowley gets the devil child, and he takes them, and then there's like a mix-up with like the nuns and stuff, and so he ends up going to like the Youngs, who are this like nice British couple, instead of this like American couple where the guy is like not a philosopher, he's a fucking diplomat, right? So he's like all over the world and stuff. And so because he gets put in like the wrong household, he grows up in like a very nice, quiet neighborhood. He makes like his friends. We find out that his whole life, like the town of Tadford's like never had a bad winter, and when it does have winter, it's like a beautiful, like ideal winter, because he has control over reality. That's like what makes him what he does, right? And so then the story starts, and it's like, oh, it's time for the end of the world. And so the Horsemen of the Apocalypse, we get like little stories about that, and nothing's in order. It bounces all over the place constantly. So it just kind of drags everything out. But essentially, it's like, all right, it's time for the end of the world to begin. Adam starts realizing he has powers, and he starts like shaping things. And then Moon Pulsifer meets Absinthe or whatever, and then they have like a romantic relationship, and then they get involved, and then like the Witchfinder other guy gets involved, and then Az and Crowley realize stuff's happening. Somehow Az like, well, they get it because they pick up, they're like trying to figure out how to stop the end of the world, because they like humans, they like just being on Earth doing random bullshit. Like Az has like a bookshop somewhere, and he just enjoys that, and Crowley likes riding around and causing mischief, but nothing like too crazy. And so they go to Tadfield. They're trying to figure out like where the baby's at, and like they find the guy who they thought was the baby, but it's not the real baby, and then they're trying to find another baby. At some point, Adam gets like a dog from hell, but the dog does whatever like Adam wants him to do, and he wants him just to be like a regular dog who's fun, and so he ends up not being like a hellhound or anything. Then so Az somehow, so they pick up Abineth when she's like riding her bike around because her bike breaks, and then she drops her like book of predictions, and so Az gets that, and then he freaks out, and so then he calls Crowley, but then Crowley's getting attacked by like demons because he's not doing his job, and he like fucked up because like the something happened with the dog, and it didn't go to the right person, or it did, but then like for some reason he's not responding well, and then the whole world starts going to hell, because the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse go to like some air base in England right by Tadford, and they start like causing everyone to like freak out and lose their minds. And meanwhile, everyone else, the whole rest of the cast is like gathering at the air base as well. And then Adam shows up, and he's like, we got to fight them. And so he uses the power of like his belief, and just gives all his friends weapons and stuff they can use to fight the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. So he's going to fight Death, the girl's going to fight the other girl, War, and then like his other friend's going to fight Pestilence, and the other one's going to fight Famine. So they all have like one of them has like a scale, one of them, like the girl has like a sword, but it's like a fake sword, right? It's like a stick with some string on it or some bullshit. But because like the power of his like ability to change reality and their belief in him as their friend, because friendship is magic, motherfuckers, it's back. You maybe thought I wasn't going to bring it up in this one, huh? Friendship is fucking magic. Anyway, so then they're able to defeat the three Horsemen of the Apocalypse, and then Adam's about to go to toe-to-toe with Death, and Death is like, I'm unbeatable, because if I die, the whole world dies, so I'm just going to go. And like, congratulations, we'll be back someday. And Adam's like, all right, bye. And then Death just like transforms into like a skeleton angel thingy and like pieces the fuck out, right? And then Metatron and what's his fuck show up. Metatron and Beelzebub show up, and they're like, "You will cause the end of the world. You have to." And Adam's like, "No, I don't want to do that. In fact, both of you should leave." And then they're like, "Well, I guess we have to leave because you ordered us," because he has that kind of power, right? And so they go, and then and then they're all freaking out because like it looks like Satan's gonna like crawl himself right out of the fucking ground to like give Adam, his actual son, like a stern talking to. And then Adam's like, "No more of that." And then as like the guys were all there, which is like Mutant, as the witch hunter, and Crowley go to like, well, I guess we're gonna die, so we might as well die fighting. And so they transform into like their angel form, and they go to fight the devil. But then Adam's like, I don't think so, and he cancels that out, and it's just like his regular dad, like Adam Young, or no, Nate Young, or whatever his dad's name is, Mr. Young, driving up and being like, Adam, the fuck are you doing here? Get back home, you're grounded. And he's like, wah, wah, wah. And so him and his like friends take off, and then the rest of them are like, oh, well, that got settled pretty easily. That's pretty good. And then they all go about their lives, and then we get like an epilogue as it's kind of sad because at some point in the story his bookshop got burned down. Crowley gets like his car back, which also got destroyed, which is like his favorite thing in the whole world. So poor Az. Mutant and Abeneth, they like end up being together, and they even get like another book of the revelations from like a trust. There's like a whole thing about that, and then they're just like Abeneth is like, oh, this is awesome. And then Mutant's like, maybe we should just live our life and not know the future. And then he convinces her, so they set it on fire and burn it. And then so they end up being married and together. And then the witch hunter sergeant, and his like whore roommate lady, they end up being together. And then Adam, he's like grounded, and so his friends come over and they're like, oh, they're setting up a circus, you should come. And he's like, nah, I gotta stay here, they're gonna be really pissed off if I leave and do anything. And then they leave, and then he's like, you know what, fuck it. So then he's like, well, if my dog runs off, I have to go get him. And then he uses like his magic to let his dog out of like the garden. He's like, ruh-roh. So he goes and he like steals apples from a neighbor, and then he runs off to hang out with his friends. And that's the book. That's Good Omens. Like I said, it's all right. There's a lot of like bullshitting around and a lot of like this and that in the book, but again, none of it's like that relevant to like the plot. It's just like, it's almost like skits. It's almost like a skit show, like a Saturday Night Live or something, where it's just like, here's another skit of like a funny, quirky thing, and here's a character, and what are they doing now? Because like, for example, the nun, the satanic nun who messed up the switching of the children or whatever, along with Crowley, she like ends up doing a resort where like people come to like, I don't know, she ends up doing some bullshit. And then there's a whole thing about that has nothing to do with the overall plot, and it's just kind of like fiddle dicking around, and it's just like humor for humor's sake kind of situation, which isn't bad. But again, it's like British humor, so I do not give a fuck about any of it. And there's a lot of that in this book. So if you like British humor, if you think whatever, Mr. Bean's hilarious and all this kind of stuff's funny, then like you will probably very much enjoy this book. It was fine. Like I wasn't like, oh, I'm so sad I read this, it was such a waste of my time. It was just kind of like, yeah, it's fine. Like listening to this at double speed, it was like an interesting story, and like, but again, it's like nothing really happened. No one, like, I guess Adam like decided he was not going to be the son of the devil, but it was never like he was going to be. He was just like a kid, and then at some point he like realized there was like more going on here, and that was it. No one else really grew or changed. People like stumbled into changing, right? Or it was like very hand wavy, like Abeneth being so reliant upon predictions of the future, and then at the very end, because like her boyfriend now is like, maybe we should just YOLO it. She's like, all right, but there's not like why. There's not like a great change or motivation to change. Just like, okay, sure, why not? That sounds fine. It's like, okay. So that's Good Omens. It's all right. Cool. So go ahead, like, share, subscribe, comment, and I will catch you guys later.